When you think of cars with classic sporty heritage, you might think of the Mini Cooper. But there's another brand that we often overlook, and that's Fiat. Fiat have got a history of fast and sporty cars. And through the years, they've obviously gained quite a few tuning divisions. This is the Abarth 500. We've had a Fiat 500 on the channel before, and today we're having a look at its more athletic sibling. So let's start off this video then by having a look at the engine bay and accessibility and all that good stuff. Open the door, lever down here, just the same as on the 500 Lounge we've driven, same as on my Fiat Panda 100 HP as well. Having a look underneath the bonnet of the Abarth 500 then, it's fairly familiar territory to those who have looked at Fiats before. In my case, I have several times, having owned a Panda and my girlfriend having the 500. So under here you've got oil fill-up, dipstick, your coolant. These got little special Abarth caps which look, I think, pretty cool. The owner of this car has taken a lot of time out to modify it to his tastes and his likeness, and you can probably get a good idea of that from just the exterior of it. But just have a look. You've got turbo just located down here. Lights, you can't really get much accessibility to those because they're hidden mainly by this little bar going across the, obviously, front crash structure, but also you've got the fuse box in the way, which, although it has this absolutely lovely little covering that's obviously been custom made for an Abarth 500, there really doesn't leave you with a lot of room, and that's works either side really. Obviously you've got a tiny bit more accessibility on this side, but really not a lot more. But yes, anyway, I digress. We continue with this. We've got windscreen washer fluid just down here. It'll brake fluid as well, because of course electric power steering, as with many Fiat models these days. When you take a seat inside the Abarth 500, those of you who have Fiat 500 yourselves will recognise this as a fairly familiar interior. Not a lot has really changed in here compared to the standard Fiat 500 model. We have a look though to see what is slightly different. You've got a flat bottom steering wheel, which gives a bit more of a sporty aesthetic. Of course, you've got your boost gauge for the turbo just located up here on the dashboard. I will say, stitch does not come as standard with this car. You've also got some very sporty bucket type seats in here, which they hold you in quite nicely actually. Not saying that, you get some sporty looking metal pedals down here, which of course all adds to the aesthetic of the car. If we have a look at the car from driver's side going through to passenger side, you can see Fiat, or Abarth at least in this case, have kept the classic 50s style fridge handle, well, door handles on here, and I think that is incredibly cool. I really like these. I think these work extremely well with a car that's obviously as classically inspired as the Fiat 500, or in this case, Abarth 500. You got your mirror adjustments, you got a little air vent, tweeter up here, component speaker down here in the door. Quite a long door pocket, not particularly wide and not massively deep, and unfortunately, as with the normal Fiat 500, you got a bit of a bolster here which does restrict access into the door pocket. Unfortunately, that's also not helped by the more buckety seats, because you've got these little bits that stick out here, and that just really gets in the way of your hand getting down there. But then again, what are you necessarily going to keep in there? But yes, steering wheel, as we've already mentioned, that's quite a sporty little addition. Of course, the speedometer, in terms of design, not really changed all that much from the standard Fiat 500. It's just got a few extra numbers on it, because this car, unsurprisingly, goes a little bit quicker. If we have a look, this car's got an aftermarket radio system in here. Otherwise, it's the same as the standard 500. You've got your little fog light button here, hazard warning lights. Instead of saying sport on here or city, it says playtime, which I think is quite a fun addition to this actually. You've got all your fan vent controls. You've even got traction control adjustment on here, so you can either have it on or off. So that's a bit of a fun button to play with, isn't it? Down here, you've got electric window controls, your gear stick, 5-speed on these cars, handbrake, nice little leather stitching down here, leather handle as well. I think these are all very, very lovely little touches to this that makes it feel more like a premium car. The Fiat 500, as we know, is already a very, very nice little car. Lots of people like it. They love the classic and retro aesthetic of it. But I think things like this really adds to the appeal of a car like this. You also have your drink holders, cup holders, aux in, and you have Bluetooth, cigarette lighter. As with the normal 500, you don't get a glove box, you just get this little glove shelf. But I wonder, like the normal 500, can you pull up the back of this seat? No hidden storage compartment underneath the seat on this one. Anyway, on the other side of the door, exactly the same as this one, minus the controls for your door mirrors. The Abarth 500, just like its Fiat 500 sibling, does come with 4 seats as standard. However, in this particular car, the owner has removed the rear seats because he found them to be as useful as trying to catch rain in a colander. You can imagine just how that's going to go. So in this, they've removed the rear seats and instead fitted a strut brace, which should hopefully help with the handling of the car. Not that it's bad in the first place, the handling on this is extremely good. But when you stiffen up a car a bit more, it all adds into it and it makes for a bit more of a better handling experience. Obviously, with there being no rear seats in this car, I can't try and do a test where I'd sit in the back of them and just see what rear leg room and everything else is like. However, if you want to find out what it's like for a Abarth 500, have a look at my Fiat 500 review. It's exactly the same interior space on that as there is in one of these. Let's go and have a look in the boot of the Abarth 500. As we walk around to the boot on the Abarth 500, the little button to actually open it is underneath the 500 badge. If we have a look in here, boot space as standard on these is 185 litres, and when the seats are folded forwards, that increases to 550 litres. In this case, as we mentioned already, the car doesn't have any rear seats, so it is just a constant 550 litres in the back of this one. I will say, if that sort of practicality isn't enough for you, the Abarth 500 can actually tow trailers legally, because of course these days with trailers there are legal numbers that you have to stick to depending on the car and the manufacturer. But long story short, unbraked trailers with this you can tow up to 400 kilograms, and brake trailers you can tow up to 800 kilograms with an Abarth 500. Alternatively, you can get bike racks and things like that for this. If we have a look inside the boot for useful features, not really any in here if I'm honest. There's no boot light that I can see. I think it's time to take this car out for a bit of a drive. Welcome viewers aboard the Abarth 500. It's a car I've been waiting ages to get my hands on, simply because I love the Fiat brand, I love their sporty cars. Abarth, being a tuning division of Fiat, and obviously now a brand, produced this car. And I absolutely love them. In fact, it was an Abarth 500 that sort of pointed me in the direction of the Panda 100 HP, which of course I now own one. But that's another story. We're not here to talk about my affinity with the Panda and the Abarth cars. As we know, the Fiat 500 was launched in 2006, but the Abarth 500 came about in 2008 for public sale. And it was done for a reason. You see, back in 1957, the classical Fiat 500, the Cinquecento, was put on sale for the public to buy. And so this was launched in 2008 as a bit of a celebration for that classic little Italian town car. And you can see why. It's brilliant. Of course, the Abarth 500 shares many of its design aspects with the Fiat 500. And why wouldn't it? The Fiat 500 is a very popular design. People absolutely adore it with its cutesy little face. It's retro, it's chic, and it's cool. But this car, the Abarth, it's got a few more little things just to give it a little bit extra. You see, The Abarth 500, it has a sporty front bumper, a rear spoiler, diffuser on the back, 16-inch alloy wheels as standard, side splitters. You get the picture. It's obviously the bigger and beefier version of the 500. The biggest change between the Abarth 500 and the Fiat 500 is the engine. Underneath the bonnet, this has got a 1.4 litre turbo engine. This is derived from the Fiat Punto, however it's got a little bit of Abarth tweaking and tuning, and so as a result of that you get 135 brake horsepower, 0 to 60 in 7.9 seconds as standard. So by any standards that is incredibly quick. The Abarth 500 then, between 2008 and 2016, came in 3 different trims. You had Custom, you had Turismo, and you had the top range Competizione. But it didn't just end there. Oh no it didn't, because when you had your little Abarth 500 and you went, yes, 7.9 seconds, that's pretty quick, but it's just not quite quick enough. So what Abarth did was they offered an SS kit, or SASA depending where you're from, and what that basically stands for is Super Sport. So when you had your Abarth 500, as long as it was within a year of being first registered, you could take it back to your Abarth dealership, pay £2,500 and get the SS kit. And what that meant was a bit of extra tuning, slightly stiffer suspension, vented disc brakes to provide better stopping power. You get a 25 horsepower engine increase, so instead of producing 135 you're looking at 160 horsepower. That's a lot in a car the size of a shoe. Suspension, that was uprated, that was then made basically bone shattering. It's quite crazy. You also got a BMC air filter to provide better and cleaner air intake and running and everything like that. Overall then, that increased your 0 to 60 time from 7.9 seconds to 7.5. £2,500 makes your car go half a second quicker to 60. I bet you'd feel the difference on the road. It doesn't sound like a lot on paper, but on the road you would really notice that difference. With the SS kit as well, top speed was also improved. The standard top speed of the 500, that's about 128, whereas with the SS kit it was changed to 131. God, the power's addictive in this thing, it really is. The 500 as a car is all about customization. It's about making it your own. Think along the lines of the Mini Cooper, the Citroen DS3, even the MG3, all these cars that were available around the time this particular car was made in 2014. Which is why the owner of this car has been slowly, over time, upgrading and modifying it to make it his very own car. One of the most striking things that he's done to it has been the Golf livery. Now he's done that because the colour of the car, it's called Legends Blue. It's quite a rare colour on the Abarth, but he thought, hey, that looks like the Golf Racing Blue. He liked it, so he added Golf stickers to it. And he's made a car that is genuinely incredibly unique. As well as that, he's added the air filter we've seen underneath the bonnet. He's added a custom exhaust, coilover suspension, the aftermarket stereo. In total, with all the work that's been done to this car, including manifolds, coolers, piping, everything else, all of these additions to this particular Abarth 500 means it produces 182 horsepower, 330 newton meters of torque, which again, in a car that weighs just over a ton, that is mightily impressive. Of course, that also makes for quite a fun ride as well. With all this work having been done to this Abarth 500, what is it like to drive? Well, the suspension is incredibly stiff, which of course usually adds for better handling. The speed of this thing is incredible. It just really picks up. I'm actually genuinely quite surprised by just how quickly it does. I'm not sure 0 to 60 is 7.9 seconds anymore, let's put it that way. It's not just necessarily the way it drives, the way it picks up speed. It's also just the noise. This thing is a pantomime on wheels. And also, because of its different looks, you get a lot of attention, whether you like it or not. Everybody loves a Golf livery. Everybody loves something like that, like Martini, Sonico, Texaco liveries. Everybody just loves those classic racing looks. But to drive then, handling, it's pretty sharp actually. Handling's pretty good. Pickup though, on acceleration, drop it down a gear, it just goes. And watching the little turbo gauge on the dashboard just suddenly go woohoo! It's good fun. This car makes you feel happy. I'm really enjoying my drive of this one. You can probably tell by the smile that's written all over my face. I'm really glad that I have had the opportunity to drive one of these cars. It's a very different driving experience to my Fiat Panda 100 HP, but my God, it's a lot of fun. Crikey. Before I end this review then, we should have a look at who the rivals of the Abarth 500 are. Well, you've got obviously the Mini Cooper S, you've got the Renault Twingo RS and Renault Clio RS as well. You've got the Fiesta ST. You also have the Vauxhall Opel Corsa VXR, the VW Polo GTI, and of course you can't forget the Volkswagen Up GTI. Although, quite frankly, the figures of that on paper at least seem to match closer to the Fiat Panda 100 HP than they do an Abarth 500. But either way, it's definitely something to consider. As you can probably tell by the look on my face, I've seriously enjoyed my time driving this car today. I absolutely loved it. It's been great fun. I wish I could have a bit more time with it, but unfortunately I do not, due to the owner of this car having to head back home to Kent tonight, and we're in the New Forest, as I've already mentioned. So for this opportunity, I'd like to thank Tom for letting me drive his car. I absolutely love this thing. It's brilliant. All the work that you put into it, absolutely fantastic. Let us go now then and park up the Abarth 500 and round off this video. The Abarth 500 then, how can I sum it up? It's a brilliant driving experience, it's very rewarding, it's fun, it's fast. What's not to like about this little car? It's also massively affordable. Second-hand values for cars like this, the earliest ones you're probably looking about £3,000, and that can go up to about the 2016 facelift versions of these, and they can start anywhere around about £10,000. But if you've got that sort of money, absolutely buy one. They're brilliant fun. I'm really impressed with it. I've absolutely loved my time with it today. Anyway, that's all we have time for with this video. So thank you very much for watching this one. Don't forget to leave a like if you have enjoyed this video and indeed this car. Comment down below, let me know. What do you think of the Abarth 500? Do you own one? What do you think of this particular car? As you can tell, I'm seriously impressed with it. And of course, if you want to see more car-based content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button because there's plenty more content coming up on the channel very soon. Anyway, that's it from me for now, so thank you very much for watching once again, and I shall see you in the next video. Until then, farewell.